All right, in this video, we're going to do this same number subsequence assignment, and it's to write a Python program that will ask for a series of numbers or digits, and then it will return the longest same number sequence, and the starting index and the number of numbers, the number of values in the sequence. And so in this particular example here, we see that the longest sequence is this series of 4 8s right here, and it starts at index 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it's a sequence of 4 8s. And so it starts at index 3, four of them, and it's the value that's repeated is 8. And so so I'm going to use Visual Studio to do this problem. So I'm going to now I'm going to create a new project, and I actually do have Python installed with my Visual Studio, and I'm just going to use this test here. If you don't have Python, then if you don't have Python installed in your Visual Studio, then you can go to Settings and go to Apps and find Visual Studio. And you will you should see the version that you have here. And so, for example, this Visual Studio Community 2019, this is what I'm using. I can modify, click Modify, and then you can add the appropriate modules for writing Python code. So I'm just going to click Next, and I'm going to name the project same number sequence, or subsequence, and I'm going to put it on the desktop. On the desktop, create. All right, so okay, so here I am. This is the template now. My Visual Studio looks different simply because I configured it differently when I taught a course a couple of semesters ago, and it seemed more convenient to have the Solution Explorer on the left and the Server Explorer on the right. But that doesn't matter. Yours, it doesn't matter where they are. The functions are the same. So I have a template here to start with the same number sequence, and the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to, just to prove that this works, I'm going to go print, print, parentheses, hello world. Okay, and I'm just going to start this. And the command line pops up here and outputs hello world, and then press any key to continue. Okay, so we see that works. All right, so in this program, we're going to print. Let me bring up this description again, and I'm going to make this maybe a little bit smaller. And I can put it over here. I can make this a little smaller. And we don't even really need to see this, do we? All right, so So the first thing is let's put my name here. Let's put a comment up here saying same number sequence subsequence program, and let's put my name. Okay, and then let's see. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask this question here. Let me. I guess I can make this a little bigger. Ask this question. Enter a series of numbers, colon. So let's put that there. And so I'm going to store it in a variable called s equals input. Enter a series of numbers, space, quote, end parentheses. And then I'm going to split that up. So the person is going to enter in these numbers, these digits, or their numbers actually, and they're separated by space. And so I want to split this string, this single string here, into an array of numbers, one number at a time. So I can call those like, let's call them nums. Nums equals s, because that's the variable that's the string. And I can say split. And because I'm splitting on spaces, I don't have to put anything inside here. I could do that because that's actually what we're doing, but the default is that, so I'm just going to leave it out. All right, so now I've got this array of these digits, and the array is called num. Let's see, this could okay. All right, so next we're gonna let's initialize some variables here. We're going to have a variable that keeps track of the longest sequence, and whenever we find another sequence, and we will compare it to what we already have as the longest sequence, and if it's not longer, then we won't do anything with it. If it is longer, then we will, and this is how we know it. So let's call this variable longest sequence count, and we'll initialize that at 0. And then we've got another variable, spell it correctly. And then we have another variable, the where the longest sequence started, the index that it started, longest that's the starting index, and let's just initialize that at 0. And then we're going to have a variable that is keeping track of the actual the count, the as we're counting up the digits of a sequence, we have a variable for that, so we're going to call that current longest sequence count. How's that? All right. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to always keep, let's say we start out at 2, we're going to always keep track of the previous digit. And so we're going to compare the current digit with the previous digit. And if they're the same, then we know that we're in a sequence. If they're different, then we know that a sequence has just ended. Okay, so it's going to start out with let's just start out with the previous digit as equaling what the first digit is, which would be num0, the first digit in the sequence. And we notice that the current longest sequence count is 0. Okay, so we're starting out at 0. So we will first loop here. Let's do a loop for index in the range of the length of nums. So this is just going to make index go from 0 up to however many numbers were entered. So this is going to loop through that range. And what we're going to do is, if the nums, if the new number that we're pointing to is equal to the previous digit, if it's equal to, then we are in a sequence. We are in a sequence, and so we have come across another digit or number in that sequence. And so let's increment the current longest sequence count. Current longest sequence count plus equals 1. Okay. Otherwise, if the new number that we just came across is not equal to the previous digit, then we have just ended a sequence. So this previous digit was the last digit of the sequence that we just ended, and now, because here this is a different number, so we would be starting a new sequence. So so we're going to say so now we've ended a sequence. Now we have to see if this sequence that just ended is longer than the current longest sequence that we have on record. And so to test that, we check if current longest sequence count is greater than longest sequence count. If it is greater, then we do have, in fact, a new longest sequence. And let's save the information. Longest sequence count is equal to the current longest sequence count. The longest sequence index is equal to, now this is going to be tricky because the current value for index is past the end of this sequence that we're recording. So we're going to take the current index and we're going to subtract from it how long the index was, which is current. It's index minus current longest sequence count. Okay, so we have recorded this new longest sequence, and let's reset, and we've started a new sequence. Right now, we've consumed this first digit or first number of the new sequence that we're now keeping track of. So that new sequence has a value of 1. All right. Now we have to update previous digit. We have a new previous digit. Let me see how to do this. Okay, how to do this. Previous digit, it's going to be inside the loop right here. Previous digit is equal to nums index. And so we loop around from here back up to here again, and index is incremented. And so now we're comparing the next number with what this previous digit was at the end of the previous loop. All right, so when we're done, we should be able to print, let's see, the longest same number sequence starts at index quote comma longest sequence index with quote, comma, longest sequence count comma, values of, and then we have to say what that what the number was that was repeated. Oops, I need to put a quote here, a quote there, and a quote here. Values of, and that would be nums, and then the first one, which is longest sequence UENCE index. All right, so I don't think are we done? Because it seems to me there was another requirement here. Okay, no, with the same number. Okay, no, this just all right. So the longest same number sequence starts at 3. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we just click start, and the command prompt or this thing comes up. So enter a series of numbers. Let's just enter in a series of numbers: 2, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 0. Enter, and we get this error here. This pops up, and what it says is something's wrong. Nums is not defined. Well, look, it's not defined. I call this array nums, but here I call it num, and here I call it numb. So that's what's wrong. I'm going to call it nums, plural, and I'm going to call this one nums, plural. It seems like it should tell me when I have an error like that. Nums. Okay, let's try this one more time. Two. Oh, I pressed the enter key. That's the problem. I'm not running it correctly. All right, let's try this again. Space this time. 2 space, 4 space, 4 space, 8 space, 8 space, 8 space, 8 space, 2 space, 4 space, 4 space, and then 0. Enter. And the longest same number sequence starts at index 3 with 4 values of 8. Let's try this again. This time I'm going to go 2 space, 4 space. Press enter again. 2 space, 4 space, 4 space, 4 space, 4 space, 8, 2, 3, 4. I want to see when they're exactly the same. 2, 3, 3, 2, whatever. Starts at index 5 values of 8. Okay, so it kept the second one, not the first one. And why would that be now? And I'm going to try a slightly different sequence. 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 0. Okay, so it's just like the sequence over here, except for I made I added 2 more 4s. So we should see that the longest sequence is the first set of 4. The reason for that is because we only record a new longest sequence when the current longest sequence is greater, or when this so in this case the sequence of 8s, this is going to be the sequence of 4s, and this is going to be the sequence of 8s, and the sequence of 8s is not longer than the sequence of 4s. They're the same. So when we run this, we see that the answer is wrong. First of all, it says that the same number sequence starts at 7, and that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's wrong. And with 5 values of 8, and there's only 4 values of 8. Okay, so let's try to figure out what the problem is. The problem is that okay, so let's paste. See, I didn't save that. Okay. So I'm gonna print something here. I'm gonna print nums index, and I'm gonna print previous digit, and I'm gonna print current longest sequence count. And let's see what this looks like now. So let's run this. And I'm going to enter 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 0. And we see that this third, we see the 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8. We see here, this is the current longest sequence count is the third one, and we see that it goes all the way up to 5. Okay, now the reason for that is, let me end this, is that when this, when we go from the 8 to the 2, this is 2 and this is 8, this fails, and so then this code executes, and this code asks, is the current longest sequence count greater than the longest sequence count? And the answer is no, it's the same. So all of this code is skipped, and then this is executed, and this is executed, and it comes back around. The problem is that current longest sequence count was never set to 1, was never reset to 1. If this fails, then regardless of this, whether or not this fails, this still needs to execute. So what we really should do is have an else current longest sequence count equals 1. And I think that should work. Let me comment this out. I don't need it anymore. So let's start. And now we have 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 0. And finally, this is correct. The index starts at index 1, which is 0, 1. and it has 4 values of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of 4. And so it catches the first sequence of 4 first, and the second sequence second. If we were to do this, let's make it greater than or equal to, then it'll save the last sequence. Two, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 0. And we see now it took the last sequence of 4. Starts at index 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with 4 values of 8. All right? Well, anyway, that was sort of a long roundabout lesson, but you should now be able to take this and probably remove some stuff and to be able to submit your assignment 1. Now, if you're going to use Visual Studio like this, let's see, two ways you can submit it. Since for this particular assignment, you can just copy this code here. Copy. And paste it right here. I'm just going to do Control V. And there it is. And I tell you, I would like you to select all this, select Control A, and change it from normal to formatted. Okay. And then if you click Submit, it looks like this. All right? Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.